Hello, everybody. It's 8:12 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of November, 2022. It's Monday here in the United States. I've got some breaking news for everybody. Another extremely large earthquake has just struck within the past few minutes. A 7.3 earthquake has struck in the West Pacific in the Solomon Islands. Now, this is on top of the devastating earthquake that struck earlier today over in Indonesia, on top of the other 7.0 earthquake, downgraded to 6.9 over here in Indonesia as well, on top of our other deep 7.0 earthquakes that struck below Tonga earlier this week. We have a big amount of activity taking place. This is the expected earthquake activity we were looking for, the shallower, larger earthquakes popping off between our deep events. So I would like to open up a USGS plate boundary map at this point, just so you can see what I see ever so slightly better. We'll turn on a display capture. Here is the Indo-Australian plate boundary between India, Australia. Of course, Indo-Australian plate boundary goes into the Pacific. That's where our new large earthquake has just struck. And that's smack in the middle in between our previous earthquakes. You notice this on the USGS site. On either tip of these triangle portions here, we can go over and look even on Google Earth and see the spot right here. Okay, where these two triangular shaped points are. And these are points on the Indo-Australian plate, which go into the Pacific, but really down below it, we've had a series of deep earthquakes going back to last week. About 8 days ago, deep 6s and deep 7s popping off below this portion of the plate, prompting me to issue warnings for this sized activity, shallower, larger earthquakes. So first deep 6s and a deep 7, followed by a shallow 7.3 over here on the east side. Now a 7.3 over on the west side 8 days later. So let's recap. An extremely large earthquake has just struck in the West Pacific, coming in at 7.3. Let's go check the tsunami warning, see what we have going on there. USGS does have it listed, and there is an actual tsunami threat issued on this. So I would like to just go see what they're talking about on the informational statement, and this will tell us maybe a little bit more of what's going on. Okay, now look, evaluation, there is no tsunami danger for the west coast of the United States, British Columbia, or Alaska. Now this is accurate for the United States, so we can just click that off. We don't want to get that. Let's go look at Guam and see what the informational statement is on Guam. This is going to emergency managers, media, and the general public. They say that based on all available data, there is no tsunami threat to Guam, Rota, or so forth in Guam. All right, now we can check Guam off the list. Let's go look at American Samoa, or non-U.S. Canadian Pacific threat. Look, none of this is going to help us on knowing where the actual tsunami is. Look, each one is just telling us where it's not. So where is the warning? Well, it says Solomon Islands, and we can maybe click on the tsunami threat to see. Does it tell us? No. So let's click on the center bulletin. View the bulletin by clicking on the breakpoint marker. I mean, this is ridiculous. Potential threat to Solomon Islands issued at 11:20 and 22. You go to click on it, and you guys see it. I'm clicking on it. I'm doing whatever I can, and it's just giving me the other ones we already clicked on, info statements, and no threat warnings. I'm mind blown at that. Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait and see if they get that updated. And in the meantime, you guys let me know if that's working for you, because you hear me clicking. Okay. Now, we do have a buoy in event mode, and the buoy on the National Data Buoy Center might tell us more than what we're going to get from the Tsunami Warning Center at this point, at least if it's not working. Maybe there's just too many people there at once. So here we go. Here's the event mode. It's a 15-second snapshot, and clearly something is going on there. Look at that. So now this is in just tenths of a meter. So we're going 4594 meters and 0.3, 0.35, 0.40, 0.45. But you see it's just going up and up and up and off the chart for the 15-second snapshot there. We'll have to wait for the next snapshot to come in on the event mode, or wait to see if other buoys start to spread out with that wave. Now, there is a wave generated with that, which I am just so troubled by this that I cannot get the bulletin, the potential threat bulletin, to open. See, it says view bulletin by clicking on the breakpoint marker. Okay, well, let's go over here. I'm telling you guys, that's just wrong right there. Okay, well, if there is a threat, we don't know how big because I can't click on it. Maybe it's my browser? Do you think it might be my browser? Let's go over and try it in like Microsoft or something. Okay. View bulletin by clicking on the breakpoint marker. Is this the breakpoint marker? No? No. No. These are info statements. Here's a threat message for Canada and non-US. You click on it, and it takes you back to the page. It's an infinite loop. Look. This is what you get when you have too many chefs in the kitchen at the frickin' agencies. Anyway, 7.3 earthquake struck. That's a huge earthquake for the area. It may go up or down in magnitude. Now let's go back to the USGS page and just go see what the origin information is on this. Check our magnitudes. See how they're coming to their determination on a 7.3. Isn't that wonderful? No magnitude information available. Phases. No phase data even. Not that I would even know how to compute it, but I don't know. I mean, just you would want it, I guess, just to know that it's there. I guess they'll put that in later. So let's get back to it. A big earthquake has struck next to our deep earthquakes, right in the middle between our two previous earthquakes from earlier today, sandwiched perfectly in the middle of what we would call our standing wave. Now, the standing wave is spreading out thousands of miles, and this is one of many expected large earthquakes for this week. You can check this location off the list. We talked about Solomon Islands. We talked about next to the deep earthquakes. And we talked about watching for 7.3. The reason I said 7.3 is because of the previous 7.3 that struck over here, 1,000 miles east of the deep earthquakes. Now we're about 2,000 miles to the west. And we go 10,000 miles further to the west from the deep earthquakes. And we have another 7 that struck just 2 days ago. Today, devastating earthquake marked as 5.6, more like a 6.5. Let's just flip that around. Maybe somebody's dyslexic at one of the agencies, probably is. And 6.5 struck in Indonesia, causing just massive damage, hundreds killed, thousands injured today. And we'll go back and look at where that happened. That happened here, where it's marked in blue. So throughout the past few days, 7.0 at Sumatra, 6.0 here today at Java, 7.3 here at Solomon Islands. Now, it probably will be causing damage locally, and with a tsunami, we'll go back to the Tsunami Warning Center, see what we've got. So let's go to the, which one do we want to click on again? Here we go. Now it opens. Look at that. Like magic. Informational only. 7.3. Based on preliminary earthquake parameters, hazardous tsunami waves are possible for coasts located within 300 kilometers of the earthquake epicenter. Hazardous tsunamis within 300 kilometers of the epicenter. Well, that certainly helps to know. So now that we have that crucial information, we can go put it in on Google Earth and see what 300 kilometers measures out to around the epicenter. Now, the people there will already likely be feeling the effects of a tsunami by now, considering we're only a few miles away, right? So 300 kilometers, though. Let's measure in kilometers. There we go. 70 kilometers over to the landmass to the east. 20 kilometers, they would already be feeling it. 120 kilometers to some of the nearby islands. And 300 brings us out in a ring somewhere like this. So we're going as far east as, well, let's see, San Cristobal and Solomon Islands, of course. Malaysia, but not Malaysia. New Georgia. Okay, you get the picture. So, a tsunami localized right in between these 2 points. Now, these 2 points were a subject of discussion for something else entirely that's across the Pacific this way. That if we go from the middle of these and we go in a straight line where you connect a line out of there, we go over to something that I found in the United States that I don't even want to get into right now. Now, really quick, before we go any further, Australia also was hit right after I did my update. Perth got struck by a 3.5, or just next to Perth, north of Perth, southwest Australia, on top of the 3.2 down to your east-southeast. So check that one off the list if you're keeping track, but this is the one that matters, guys. Huge earthquake. Now, they downgraded it. They shaved off 2 7.0s worth of energy. They took it from a 7.3 down to a 7.1. That's like shaving off 2 7s. As it generated a tsunami, they're shaving off energy. Welcome to the world of professional whatevers. So let's get back to it. Big earthquake strikes on top of the other big earthquakes, following our deep earthquakes. This was all expected. This was forecast down to the magnitude. Each location now. So if you want to see the forecast, they are from 7 days ago over on my YouTube channel from the 14th. Going back to the 9th. The 9th through the 14th, I had to issue multiple warnings based upon the deep earthquakes. Every one of them has now taken place going over to the West Pacific so far. And we still have several more days to go in the 14-day watch. But I'm going to have to issue a new forecast, but I'm not going to issue that forecast now in this video. This video solely covers the big earthquake here in the West Pacific, here in Solomon Islands, generating a tsunami. So now we have a tsunami on top of hundreds of people killed, on top of thousands of people injured, all in the same day. Hundreds of people killed and thousands injured here in Java. And now massive earthquake back over to the east. And if we take out all the smaller, we're on the same plate boundary. We're connected across thousands of miles of that plate boundary from the red earthquake over to the blue earthquake. And the distance there is, let's see, in miles, we're like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles apart in a day. This whole thing shifting and moving. You can see a standing wave of somewhat equal distance spaced earthquakes on all sides of our big activity. Now, if you're up in Japan, this should be a wake-up call for you. I might be wrong on my magnitude for Japan. I had to issue a new warning for Japan based upon a new deep earthquake that struck down below Japan today. A new deep earthquake raised high off the globe here on our letter D. And I issued a warning in my last video just a couple hours ago for Japan to be on watch for a 6.2. However, in light of this, we have to take it up a notch. 6.9, low 7, coming into Japan, in between our 2 sets of earthquakes, Tokyo, just north of coast Honshu. That's a forecast I have to put in now, because the people in Japan, guys, it's imminent. It's going to be striking in the next few days as the energy goes up your way. You can even see it on the USGS map. We have these equally spaced earthquakes spreading out across the plate boundary this way. Once we get up to the north, they're still equally spaced, going out across over into Alaska, but it's all 5s, and the spacing's much further apart. So we look between our current sets of earthquakes for the new earthquake to break, and where does that put us? I mean, you see it. If we go between these 2 sets of quakes here, it's pretty obvious. Northeast coast of Japan, where we had the big one back in 2011. Same with up here to the north. Halfway point between these two puts us at the south tip of Kamchatka, Russia. Halfway point between these two puts us in the central Aleutian Islands. All of these are going to get hit. The coast of Alaska. Let me go ahead and issue a warning for this now as well. We have to watch for the next 7 days for the potential of an extremely large earthquake, just like this one that just hit down here at Solomon Islands, that we would have to watch up here right at the bend of the plate in between our 5 here off the coast of the United States and 5 here up at Bogoslav Volcano. If we go up and around the bend of the plate, think of this like a 2-arm scale or like a bell shape, that we would go up to where the middle point is between the two at the peak of the curve. That's where the new earthquake would strike in the next few days. Big. In the next 7 days. Speaking of big earthquakes, a new sizable earthquake has just struck on the mid-Atlantic ridge. A new 5.3 has struck just south of our previous 5, 4.9, 4.8 at the Azores. This is flowing out of Europe. Europe got hit by a 5.5 earlier yesterday. Now a new 5.3 to 5.5 strikes out at our X. You want to see how they're connected? Let's go over to Europe really quick. Check this out. It's all moving at once, guys. So Greece got hit down here at Fry, Greece. F-R-Y, Greece. Fry, Greece. Greasy fries. That's the USGS reported it there. They're trolling. Anyway, 5.5 struck there near 6. And now out at the T intersection, we start moving. How are we connected? You see it. The plate boundary goes right across and out. And guess what struck in between this red one and the earthquake that struck at Fry, Greece? A line of 4s going out, which you can still see here on Earthquake 3D, I think. Yeah. Going up into Italy and then down and across Africa. Well, gee, going up into Italy and then down and across Africa. What is that? It's the plate boundary. It all moved with 4s and upper 4s and then now 5s out at the end. So we got a 5 here and a 5 here, like bookends, and they're connected between a standing wave of 4s in between. And let's wait for that to refresh. There it is. Standing wave of 4s in between the two sets of same size 5s. It all goes back to over here where we have major activity taking place. They keep downgrading the quake. Now they shade off another 7. Now we're down to 7.0. They took it from 7.4 down to a 7.0. What are we going to do now? Take it down to a 6.9? Wouldn't that be funny if they did? See, we can't have too many 7s in a day. You know what I mean? We don't want the public to worry. And in order to get it so that the people in the future don't see it, so that they can't keep track or know what's going on, we're going to have to downgrade it. We're going to have to mess with the numbers and change the earthquake information. We're going to have to change it multiple times, and we're going to have to fraudulently edit the earthquakes to be lesser than they are. So now that you know what we have to do, are you going to be okay when I do it? I mean, you're okay when they do it. Can I do it? Can I just start calling the earthquakes lesser? That's not a 7. That's a 6. And we can just start documenting it that way and changing it to be whatever I want? Can we do that? Can we just compute the numbers until we get the numbers that we want? What if the meteorologists did that? What if they went and dumped out the rain gauge? You know, record amount of rainfalls, big or a huge amount of rainfalls, and they said that it couldn't. And then they go out there and start tilting it over and dumping a little of the rain out before the report comes on. And you catch them, and you say something to them, and they're like, no, this is how we do it. You say, don't we need to just get a better rain gauge then? Instead of having you dump it out to be what you need, why don't we just get an appropriate rain gauge that measures appropriately and cut you out of the situation? And they're like, no, we don't need to do that. No. What we need to do is get rid of you. And on that note, speaking of getting rid of me, do you guys have an earthquake plan? I'll get out of here when you acknowledge yes or no. Do you have an earthquake plan? Have you ever taken the time to think about where you're going to go if an earthquake hits like this one right here, the 7? Some of you don't think about it at all. Do you have an emergency kit? You should have an emergency kit. Now is the time for you to develop one and get one together if you don't. Change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight and batteries. All that great stuff. You need to put it into a bag and have it ready to go. Just in case. People out in California use them for wildfires, not just for earthquakes. You can use it for flood, flood comes through, you got your emergency kit. It's got some of the important stuff in it, documents and so forth. And you can also have food and water in it, in case anything really bad happens. I'm just reminding you, it's getting serious, guys. I told you it was going to get serious. You can go check my headlines on my videos. You can tell we were ramping up as, like, 6 days ago, I put out a headline that says earthquake overdrive in the headline. I don't, again, I mean, we have major earthquakes, we have big earthquakes, we have large earthquakes. But when I'm telling you earthquake overdrive, and I'm taking up that headline space with something like be prepared instead of telling you the details of the video. When I start doing that, you'll notice it's not all the time. It's only when we're going through a bunch of big, deep earthquakes, and it looks like we're imminently looking at large earthquake activity coming into populated areas like Indonesia, the West Pacific, Japan, the west coast of the United States, and so forth. So I'm going to get a new forecast out tonight. It's 8:30 p.m. Central Time right now, but next few hours I will get a new forecast together for the next 7 days, record it, and then premiere it on YouTube. Please take the time to share this update. Let the people know over in Solomon Islands that they had a 7-day warning for this. Go back 7 days ago and listen to my update, warning for a 7.3. Same with Indonesia. Not bragging, I just have to tell you. 7 days ago, we talked about this intimately, specifically right down to the magnitude because of the previous 7.3, which struck. Oh, well, now they've downgraded it to a 7, right? Whatever. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I will be back, likely very soon, in the next day at least, with my forecast.